Hi, I'm Chris Catton, and this is the very first edition of Sun City Mix Breakdowns. Today I'm going to be opening up the mix session for a track called Feelings, which we released in the summer of 2025, and it's also on our debut album, which we released in November 2025. And I'm going to be breaking it down into 5 parts. That will be the 5 instrument groups. So we're going to be looking at drums, bass, keyboards, guitars, and vocals in that order. In case you want to skip ahead to something, I've put some timestamps in the description, so you can just skip ahead to whichever part you're most interested in. And without further ado, let's dive into it. I've got a bit of a letdown for anyone who tuned in just to find out how I program the snare sound, because I lost it, basically. And the reason I lost it is that I used eFunk drums by Audio Lounge on nearly all the drums, and this is a plugin that sounds fantastic, but the coding leaves a lot to be desired. So basically, when I opened up this project, everything had reset. All the instances of eFunk drums had reset, and there are 9 different kits to choose from, and I have no idea which one I use for the snare. Luckily, I found an older version of the project where I'd actually frozen the snare. So I opened that version and basically exported the snare. But everything else I've recreated pretty much as it sounded. The kick, there are actually 2 kick drums, and one of them is from eFunk drums and sounds like this. Sort of a pretty not very bottom heavy and reverby kick, and then I've layered it with one of Logic's own kicks, which is kind of a sort of almost an 808-ish kick, which gives sort of the body of the kick drum. So together they sound like this. Yeah, and then with the snare, sorry I can't find it, there are 2 different reverbs on, I think. A hall and a plate. The hall is Space Designer. Now, I almost never load Space Designer up myself, even though it is a very powerful plugin. And then over here, we've got the plate, Valhalla Vintage Verb. We love that plugin. We use it for damn near everything. The 70s plate on the Valhalla Vintage Verb just sounds incredible on almost everything. Bit of low cut and otherwise pretty standard stuff. Standard Cabasa. I just used eFunk drums because I used it on everything else, and I thought, why not? And we've got some percussion going on. And some crash and ride, which is just Logic's own drummer. And an intro clap, which is, this is another plugin from Audio Lounge, and that's an even better plugin because it doesn't bloody reset when you open a project 6 months after you've made it. And this is basically a copy of the Lindrum. If you want to sound like Sun City, I have no idea if anyone does, but if you want to sound like Sun City, get this plugin, the ALD2 by Audio Lounge. We've also got a cymbal riser. Wow. Incredible. That is probably just a cymbal that I'd recorded for a different project. And last but not least, during the solo, maracas solo. Why did I mute that? What does that sound like? What the hell was I thinking? Anyway, I wanted something to happen during the solo. For anyone who hasn't heard the song that much, the solo sounds like this. And at that point in the solo, I thought, I want something to happen. And so I put in is this a shaker? Yeah, a shaker. And then answered with a weird hi-hat sound. I just thought it was missing something, so I put that in. Yeah, there are a couple more reverbs. Another drum plate by Space Designer. Again, nice small plate. That's one of the default buses that Logic almost always opens up if you use one of their own drum kits or one of their own Rhodes. They always create that bus for you. And so I just left it because I thought it sounded nice. And we've got a drum gate. What's sending to that? Oh, right, yeah. The original snare was supposed to send to that. But again, I can't find the snare. And some toms are sending to it as well. Valhalla Room. Another excellent reverb plugin. I mean, if I could choose 2 reverb plugins for the rest of my life, it would definitely be Valhalla Vintage Verb and Valhalla Room, because they just sound excellent for this kind of music. And a longer drum hall for, is that for the clap? Intro clap, yeah, that's for that clap at the start, which sounds like this. Wow. Right, that's it for the drums. Novation Base Station is what I used for this track, and I have no idea why there are so many edits. Now, I'm not the best synth bass player in the world, but I'm pretty sure that the reason there are so many edits is not because I'm that bad at playing the bass. I expect what I did was I recorded the MIDI, and then I probably shot it back through and tested out some different sounds. All these red zones, I think, are the verse, or whatever you want to call it, the B part, this part of the song. I was so far gone. Because I wrote that part quite a while later after I wrote the original parts, the chorus parts, if you will. Those parts. Anyway, it's the Novation Base Station. I think the patch I used, if anyone's interested, is from a bassist called Daryl Freeman. He's called The Real Free on Instagram, and he made some Novation Base Station patches, which one of my friends bought a long while back and introduced me to. I can't remember the name of the sound pack. If anyone's really, really interested, DM us and I'll try and figure out what the sound pack is called. Anyway, bass alone sounds like this. And mix-wise, wow, that half dB bump at 118 Hertz is definitely what was the reason this track really took off. Some saturation from FabFilter Saturn, fantastic plugin. And I'm sending it to bass bus, and I've actually duplicated the bass bus. So one of the instances, you can see it's the same bus 42. One of the instances sounds like this. It's in mono, and I've cut some low end out. Or some high end out, sorry. And the other version of it has got some chorus on it, but before I send it to the chorus, it's fully chorus wet. But this is just a chorus, like a blend in and out. And I've cut out everything under 200 Hertz so that the bass region, the low end region, doesn't become really phasey and weird. And then I've got a track spacer on, and the track spacer, this is also a pretty cool plugin from Waves Factory, which is basically a sort of an intelligent multi-band compressor, which is it's meant to sidechain to, for example, a vocal. If you want the vocal to cut more through, then instead of sidechain compressing, then you just use this plugin, and it actually, as you can see, if I go to a place where there are vocals, where there are lead vocals, there, you can see all this, what it's doing is just intelligent multiband compressing. And it's pretty set and forget. You've got a low cut and a high cut as to which frequencies it should be dipping, and I've low cut it to, I can't see what that is, 60 Hertz, so that it's not messing with anything in the low end region. But other than that, it's pretty much just set and forget, and you just set the amount ratio knob to how much you want it to take hold, and it's at 5.7%, so it's not really doing much here. It's just letting the vocals cut a little bit through. So yeah, that's the bass. Okay, so what have we got? We've got main track, which is just the chords playing. Sounds like this. I've already got 4 different sounds on that. We've got Rhodes Affair, another plugin from Audio Lounge. Sounds fantastic. Oh, I've actually got 4 layers on just that plugin as well. It's a long time since I've opened this project, so some of these things I'm just as surprised as you guys probably are. RA, Rhodes Affair, the standard sound. Then I've got an MKS20 or MKS80 emulation. I can't remember which one. That's the one that sounds like this. And then the RA sounds like this. Then there's a low res piano from Alchemy. That's a Logic sound. Sounds like that. This is called Washington Street Credit Synth. Also a Logic sound. So that's just a pad, basically. And then the analog waves thing, which gives sort of a lot of high mids mostly because I've boosted the high mids and cut out everything else. And together, sounds like this. And then I've got some various plugins on to make it sound really chorusy and 80s. So we've got the Juno 6 emulation by Arturia. Once in a while, that's free, so look out for that. But even if you have to pay for it, it's still a great plugin. That was the same plugin that I had on the bass as well, the high end. Then I've cut out a bit of low end on all those 4 keyboards. This is the bus that they're all sending to. And then I've got this Cymatics Origin. That was also free at some point. Excellent plugin which allows you to kind of lo-fi stuff up. So you've got a saturation knob, which really sort of smashes it, but in like a nice way. And this movement knob is basically, it emulates like a VHS tape. And then you can also put on some static. I haven't done that. And then there's a chorus knob, and that's a bit redundant because we've got the movement, and I've also put a chorus before it. And then, what am I doing here? Oh, that's just a that's a dynamic equalizer in Pro Q4. Just to make the hits of the actual chord power through a little bit more. So those are the main keys. I'm sending to a couple of buses here, a plate, and again the large hall. Again, another reverb plugin another reverb bus that Logic just auto creates when you use some of their sound. So it's probably when I chose the low res piano or something like that it just created that bus. And the plate, what is that doing? The same as the drum plate. When I originally made this project, I didn't have separate reverbs for all the instruments, but when I started working on it as an actual song, I always think it's just easier to have things going to separate buses so that if I solo the keys bus, it solos all the keys and all the reverbs. And that basically makes it easier to export as stems, because when we get this mastered, we get it stem mastered. What else have we got? We've got a couple of fun little melody parts here. Synth melody. And I used a couple of different sounds for that, because then I could sort of pan it around and make it sound sort of a bit spacey. That's the main one. And then we've got Roads Affair. Copying that just with a different sound, with those 2 sounds. And we've got an octave over with the same sounds in Roads Affair. And then the chord at the end there. There was something with the plugin that wouldn't sustain it, so I just duplicated these 2. So that's they're not different sounds. That was just for engineering reasons. Yeah. If we look at the key bus, I've got a compressor going on here from FabFilter. Fantastic plugin. I have not been paid by any of the plugin manufacturers to say this, by the way. I just think all these plugins are fantastic. This preset's called 10 tons of weight, and then I might have changed it a bit. So basically doing the opposite of what that dynamic equalizer I showed you before is doing. Anyway, I think it sounds good. I've got 2 track spacers on. One of them is probably from the drum kit. No, this one's probably from the vocals, right? Yeah, lead vocals. So there we can hear again what it actually does. If I go to a place where there are lead vocals, here. If I turn it up, then it starts sounding really weird. And that's the thing about this plugin. It works if you use it with moderation. But if you start dialing up the ratio knob a lot, then it starts sounding a little bit weird. And the other track spacer is Audio 21. Harm. Oh, right. Okay, so that goes to one of the, or is sidechained to one of the harmony vocals in the chorus, probably. Yeah. And that's just so that I get the same effect, both in the verse and the chorus. And the reason I don't sidechain to the bus is if I do that in Logic, then it stops reacting if I solo this bus, because the solo safe options in Logic work a little bit differently than a lot of other DAWs. For example, Pro Tools. When I want to export the stems, it's way easier if I can sidechain it to a track and not a bus that's at the same bus level as this bus here, the keys bus. Anyway, that's the keys. There's not much guitar in this track. There's a rhythm guitar, which sounds like this. Holy crap, that's a lot of plugins. Right, the reason I put a lot of plugins on this is probably because this is the original rhythm guitar track. You know what every good audio engineer says? Fix it in the mix, and that's what I did. This is probably just a low cut. No, this is boosting some weird random frequencies. Okay. Alright, okay, so those are all the plucky frequencies that I liked. I've put amplitude on, no idea which amp. Ah, okay, a deluxe reverb. That looks like that, not much going on there. A compressor pedal. Another compressor. Okay, that's just... Yeah, that's very, very fast. Fast attack and fast release. That's just taking off like the very top of the plucks. Pro Q3. Boosting a frequency in the middle of those two. That I've dipped here. Man, I have no idea why I did this. Anyway, if it sounds good, it sounds good. And hopefully you also think it sounds good. Here I did some low pass and high passing because I thought it blended in more well with the keys when I did that. Let's give it a listen. Yeah, that's kind of sitting where the keys aren't really taking up too much space. Put on the micro shift from Sound Toys. Now, if you can only afford one plugin from Sound Toys, I would definitely recommend Little Micro Shift, which is the baby brother version of this one. You have less control, but for 99 out of 100 instances, I just use Little Micro Shift. Well, let me just turn off this and solo this. Without micro shift, it sounds like this. With micro shift, it gets that sort of wide, sort of double tracky sound. And we've got Super VHS. This is a plugin I just bought on a whim because I think they had a sale on it. And this magic button here just sounds really good. So without it and with it. Yeah, just gives it kind of a spacey, very, very 80s feel, which is what I wanted from this guitar. And a bit of echo. Usually I'd put that on a bus, but just didn't feel it was necessary here. And we've got 3 reverbs, a plate, a hall, and a gate. And I think they're all from Valhalla as well. Yeah, Valhalla Room, that's the gate. And this big gate preset, I use that on a lot of drums as well. And a plate. Again, exactly the same one as the drums and the keys. I just duplicated it to have it on a separate bus. And the big hall, I think that looks like it's almost the same as the intro clap reverb as well. Again, just duplicated it for the ease of stem exporting. Now, this mode in Valhalla Vintage Verb, Hall 1984, with, of course, the color 1980s, sounds really nice. It emulates a Lexicon 480 unit, and I think this actually sounds quite a lot like a Lexicon Hall, as opposed to some other plugins which are actual Lexicon emulations, but I just don't think they really sound like the Lexicon 480. I have access to a studio where we have a dual unit, which I've used on some of our stuff in the past, where I've just like done a print of it, like an audio print of the Lexicon, and blended that in. But a lot of emulations don't really sound like a Lexicon, but this 1984 sounds quite a bit like a Lexicon, and it also just sounds really nice in its own right. Anyway, the important guitar stuff, let's get rid of that bloody rhythm guitarist and listen to the solo. Right, there are two different amps here. One of them is from Kemper. I've got a little Kemper Player series, and I think I've probably used a Marshall 1975. Is it called the Super Lead? An emulation of that amp. Again, if anyone's really, really interested, DM us and I'll figure out which preset I used. No, I didn't write it in the notes, did I? No. Anyway, I think it was a Marshall Super Lead 1975 emulation. That sounds like this. So it's quite focused and not too brittle and high-endy. And then the other one sounds like this. That is Archetype Corey Wong, and it's a preset called Sorta Synthy Lead. And anytime you hear any lead guitar on a Sun City track where I recorded the guitar, you can bet pretty much your life savings that I used this preset, Sort of Synthy Lead, because I think it sounds really, really good. But on its own, it's a little bit unfocused because it's very chorusy. If I turn off the chorus, it still sounds nice, but it kind of loses the magic. And if I tone down the mix on the pedal as well, I still think it loses some of its magic. So what I often do is I'll use that to give like the sort of wide, not brittle, but sort of a nice air on the, like if you take an SSL channel and boost the 10K-ish, it gives it sort of some nice air, and then it gives it that nice chorusy sound. And then I'll just duplicate it and pair it with a different amp. And here I paired it with something from my Kemper. I have sample delayed it just to delay compensate for the Kemper. The Kemper's not a plug-in unit, it's a hardware unit, so it introduces some latency. So I just worked out the latency. So if I turn that off, when I turn it on again, it kind of becomes a little bit more focused because it's just less out of phase. I've got some reverbs on that as well. I've got a delay. What's that doing? Where is that guitar delay there? Oh wow, I tried out a load of different versions on that, I can see, and I just saved them in case I didn't like the result that I came back to and wanted to go back to something else I'd done. So this is the one I ended up with, the H delay by Waves, which sounds nice. I like the sound of the H delay, but their high pass and low pass knobs, I don't know, I just don't really like them. So I did that in ProQ myself, like that. If you want to hear the delay on its own, I have no idea why you'd want to do that, but it sounds like this. And then to diffuse it just a little bit, I put on a little bit of reverb. Valhalla Plate, I think the only reason I put on Valhalla Plate instead of Vintage Verb is because I felt like I'd used too many instances and I wanted to look like I was a bit diverse. But honestly, I might as well just have used Vintage Verb and used the Plate version. Anyway, there's a Hall as well, which is, yep. Oh, the Palace mode. That sounds nice as well. These three modes, if you haven't updated Valhalla Vintage Verb within the last 3 years, then you haven't got these three modes, Palace, Chamber 1979, and Hall 1984. And you should definitely get those because they sound really good. And I use them all the time. And then we've got a gate. That was an interesting choice. Oh, yes. This is another preset that I use a lot. Gated chorus verb. With only that reverb on, it sounds like this. So yeah, like that. It almost gives like a bit of a stadium feel, but because it's a gated reverb, it just doesn't last very long and it doesn't muddy up the mix. And I just noticed that I've also got something called Guitar Slap, which is also from this same bus. I have no idea what that's doing. What are you doing? Kind of the same thing. Right, a slap verb. Basically, I just wanted that solo to sound kind of otherworldly, so I just put on a bunch of effects. That was the guitar. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the main event. The vocals sound like this.
Self from dreaming. I don't know just what I want to do.
Wow.
Searching hard for something to believe in. I guess that something can't be me and you. I was so far gone. I was running on pure devotion, hoping we'd make it through.
Yes. Okay, a lot to get into. I've got the lead vocals and plus a couple of dubs. Sound like this. Oh, crap. Sorry. There we go.
I was so far gone. I was running on pure devotion, hoping we'd make it through.
I recorded these vocals with Neumann M149, a tube mic in cardioid, and that microphone sounds incredible on every single thing you put it on. If you look at the chain, We've got a bit of pitch correction. I've got a de-esser. Generally, I de-ess myself quite a lot because my S's are, I don't know, I just find them a lot more sibilant than almost any other singer I've ever recorded, and it's bloody annoying. So if every time I say the letter S in this video, your ears are almost exploding, I am very sorry. I've got a de-esser there, another de-esser there, and... oh, just 2 DSs this time. That's progress. Anyway, that doesn't matter because you're probably not as sibilant as I am. SSL channel, the lead vox preset. That's also a bit of a set and forget for me sometimes. Sometimes I'll tweak the equalizer a little bit and set the threshold, the gain, so they matches whatever input I've got. But other than that, I just think it sounds really good on a lot of rock and pop vocals. And I've got another compressor here.
I was so far gone. I was running on pure devotion.
Fast attack, fast release. So just taking the very top after it's been processed here, and a little bit of equalizer.
I was so far gone. I was running on.
Beautiful. Some saturation.
I was so far gone. I was running on. I was so far gone. I was running on pure devotion.
This gives it a little bit more grit. And a tiny bit of micro shift on these vocals as well. Now, usually I wouldn't actually do that on lead vocals. I tend not to do that anymore. It gets a bit phasey. But for this particular track, because the hook of the song is so harmony-based, then I thought that it was a bit weird
I don't know just what I
if the lead vocals were so alone. So I put on a little micro shift, and also I gave him 2 dubs to play with, so he had 2 friends. And I tend not to do as much with the dubs, especially if they're not very loud, as these aren't. They're at minus 15 dB, so I just put on a bit of pitch correction on them as well. Anyway, let's look at the backing vocals, because they're kind of the hook of the song, I feel.
I got so caught up inside my feelings.
What is this doing?
I'm not sure which way I want to go.
I have no idea what that's doing, so let's just move on swiftly. SSL channel, I just copied the lead vox, even though it's a bus, I just copied it to it because I thought it sounded good. Got a bit of sooth on it,
I got so caught up.
just to tame some of the high end. This multi-band compressor is actually doing something.
I got so caught up inside my feelings.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure which way I want.
I sounded really sarcastic when I said that. That wasn't supposed to be sarcastic. That really cleans it up and gets out some of this really muddy low end and just makes it more glassy. An equalizer, doing a little bit of stuff, bit of dynamic equalizer. Honestly, if I turn that off from dynamic, I don't think it would make a difference. Some satin on it. This is just like a whole single band, bit of warm tape. I often spice up a track by using a little bit of this warm tape. Now, this is probably automated to something to bring out some S's. And that's the nice thing about the FabFilter Pro Q, is that you can use the gain scale function. So you can set like a really weird equalizer. And instead of then automating each band, you can just automate this gain scale parameter, which is really, really nice and just makes life a heck of a lot easier. And we'll get into that in another video, why I use that free gain plugin so much. And we've got some backing vocals in the verse as well, which looks pretty similar to this, because it probably is. The sends, right, reverb and stuff like that. I've got a hall, a plate. The lead vocals have got some of the slap verb thing going on, just to give them a little bit of space without making them sound muddy. And bus 27, what's that? Oh, that's the delay on the lead vocals. Have I got 2 separate delays? Yes, I have. I have got 2 separate delays for the backing vocals and the lead vocals.
I was so far gone. I was hanging on to the moment, to promises we once made.
Just turn off the dubs. So the slap.
To promises we once made.
Sounds like that.
We were prisoners
Plate.
to emotion. We couldn't just turn the page.
And hall.
Now you're all grown up. I'm still hanging on.
So you can hear that's a lot lower, but also a lot longer. So that's only in the quiet passages you really hear that. And it's got more low end on as well. And the delay.
I was so far gone. I was
Yeah, just standard. It's just a delay, basically. Valhalla delay. Again, we love the Valhalla DSP stuff. In the Valhalla delay, you can diffuse the delay. So instead of using a separate reverb plugin afterwards, blending it a bit in, if you want to diffuse the delay, you can use this knob. In general, Valhalla delay is a really nice delay, and I've started using it a lot. And it's also got this spread feature, which kind of microshifts the left and right channel. But again, it sounds different than using microshift, so sometimes you can get a better result from using this spread knob. This is just some parallel compression saturation, I think, in the verse for the backing vocals. And then I've just brought the stereo panner in, so this is almost mono. De-esser. This is a different SSL channel strip emulation of a J channel instead of an E channel. This is from Brainworks. Very, very different than using waves. Like, very different. It's got some auto gain on the threshold of the compressor, which is sometimes nice and sometimes really weird. But anyway, it sounds different, and I don't know. I used it for this. Backing vocals 10cc. Oh, that's because I was going for a kind of I'm Not in Love by 10cc. I think that was kind of one of the influences for how I wanted to make the backing vocals for this. So yeah, some Saturn. And no idea why I dipped that out. Probably sounded good when I did it. Oh, I've got the reverb, all the reverbs on a VCA track. Yes! Now we're getting an 80s sound. And I've taken it down. Is that automated? No. I've brought all the reverbs down by 0.6 dB. Very important mixing decision I made there. Thank God I did that. And that's how we mix feelings. Thank you very much for watching along, and if you want to see more of this kind of content, please let us know in the comment section below so that we know there are people watching this and actually enjoying it. Also, if you have any questions that went unanswered throughout the video, please, again, let us know in the comment section, and we'll get back to you and try and answer your questions as best we can. If you want to stay updated, you can subscribe to our newsletter, and there's a link for that in the description below, or you can go to suncityofficial.com and subscribe there. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.